Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. I'm Amy Steinberg, and I'm so excited to be here with you. And I thought I'd start off with a song of mine called Abundance. And everything I do today, I want to be able to make it simple enough that you can sing with me, because we all need a little bit of singing in our lives. So I'll do it once, and then you can sing along with me. This is called, again, Abundance. You are taken care of. I am taken care of. We are taken care of by the Spirit of love. You are being blessed by. I am being blessed by. We are being blessed by the Spirit of love. Right now is another chance. Right now is another chance. Right now is another chance to live in abundance. Yeah, to live in abundance. All right, so that's the whole song. You are taken care of. I am taken care of. You are taken care of. I am taken care of. We are taken care of by the Spirit of love. You're being blessed. You are being blessed by. I am being blessed by. We are being blessed by the Spirit of love. Right now is another chance. Right now is another chance. One more time. Right now is another chance to live in abundance. Yeah, to live in abundance. Yeah. Just the first part again. You are taken care of. I am taken care of. We are by the Spirit of love. Ready? Here we go together. You are taken care of. I am taken care of. We are taken care of by the Spirit of love.
What a simple and profound song, Reverend Amy Steinberg.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and good afternoon to you. Good morning from me. And happy Sunday. I'm so excited to share this day together with you.
Me too. As always, it's been too long. It's been a few months, so
Yes, I
really
don't think
happy
it'll
to be back.
we won't be spending the day together, but we're certainly spending the time for our service together, right?
And it will set up the whole day.
It will. We've spent some time together already today in our sound check and audio, so we've already set the time up and ready for this beautiful day as we kick off the first day of September in the year 2024.
Can't wait. I'm excited
Me
to be
either.
here.
Sounds good. I'll see you in just a bit. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Dr. Keith Cox. I'm the spiritual leader here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles, and welcome to our Sunday celebration service. And interesting that my Zoom isn't taking over the whole screen, but I guess that is what it is, right? So let's see what the view is. If we can change that. So speaker view. There we go. And so it did that on one of my computers. But anyway, hello and happy Sunday. So glad that you have all made the decision, wherever you may be joining us from, to join us in this Sunday celebration service as we come together as we do every Sunday morning to connect to the spirit of love that Amy was just speaking of. That is that power that we are each imbued with and that we express in all of its totality and all of its completeness by means of our existence. And within that expression, via the means of our existence, we have been given the great gift and opportunity, and once we become awakened, even the responsibility to use the power of the mind of the divine in ways to propagate good, to enhance our lives, and to indeed make a difference in our lives and others on our planet. We do that by the way that we think and believe and act and react and interact with the very thing itself. And so welcome. And I trust and know that no matter where you're joining us from, you know that you are safe and you are protected and that you are loved and revered as an expression of the divine. Today is going to be a fun day. Amy and I are going to play some today here in the realm of spirit, and I've got some fun things planned for us later in the message to share with you to stimulate a new way of thinking and being. But prior to doing that, we're going to move into our opening component of the service. I'm going to put on the screen our opening slide and get us going. How does that sound, everyone? So we are the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, and our vision statement is supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. And so I know for all of us that we find that today as we enter into the act of saying hello to each other, albeit in a virtual sense, we take a moment in time to use our energy with wisdom and with intent and with resourcefulness. We look at the wonderful image on the screen right now. It's an animated image of this beloved being of light who's receiving the light of the divine. That is that energy that of the divine that Amy spoke of in just a moment ago, or sang of as love. And we use it in this part of the welcoming to invite it in, to have it be awakened within us as a spiritual awakening so that we feel more personally self-empowered, ready to meet and greet this time together that we share. Believing that as we are interconnected through this power, that we're not bound by time or space or geography. And therefore that gives us the opportunity to connect, reconnect, share with each other this act of namaste. So I invite you to open your hands as you open your mind and take a deep breath in. And when you exhale, pull your hands together in prayer position. Another exhalation, bending forward, saying aloud, namaste, rising back up, opening up and receiving that energy of expression, and honoring the act of namaste. In its purest Sanskrit meaning, it is defined as, I bow to thee. Not an act of supplication, of surrender, but an act of strength, of willingness to open up to receive more of that which is perfection and wholeness and completeness. Let's say it together. Namaste. As a community, we come together to welcome all races, all religions, all countries of origins, all sexual orientations, all genders, all abilities. We stand with you, honoring the stamp of individuality that Spirit has placed upon itself and called it you. Today, I invite us to do that to not only all beings of light that are joining us live today, but whoever may watch it at a later date, and just all beings of light in general. Let's affirm aloud, we welcome one and we welcome all. As a community, we've come together for 30 plus years to teach primarily the philosophy, faith, and way of life known as the science of mind. It's a compilation of all the great spiritual teachings in the time that Dr. Holmes put together this teaching, and came together at the end of the 19th century, right on the precipice of the 20th century. And its essence is that we are all one power, that power exists as mind, that we're all interconnected and perfectly expressed as mind, and that we both experience and express and perceive and act upon and react upon the mind itself. And that as we tend to our thinking, our believing, and our acting in life, we get to see in life how our thinking, our beliefs, our actions are propagating themselves in form as our lives. That's because we live in a universe that's governed by spiritual law, and the very way that we use our mind with intention and with focus and with purpose, we get to experience it in form. Thus, bringing us back to the age-old, certainly 20th century, foundational component of this teaching is change your thinking, change your life. Should we find ourselves in a space or time or experience of life not liking what we see in physical form, we get to change it. And if we want to be a conscious participant in creating more of that which we desire, we do that by paying attention to our thinking, at least in a foremost beginning way. That's what we do. And so it gives us the opportunity to fulfill our vision statement of supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. We come together on days like today, Sunday, and the first day of September, to open up to a spiritual awakening. In our teaching, a spiritual awakening is a remembrance that we are one with all of life, the sea of consciousness, if you will. And as expressions of the power itself, we have within us the ability to impact it and how it shows up in our life. We move into our morning ritual now. It's called Calling in the Light. Personally, I love doing this every Sunday morning because I like to build upon each Sunday the energy of my connection. I speak personally in the I am moment and affirm it for each of you as well. The meaning of the words that I hear and how I have such an opportunity to put them into play each and every day in life. The words of the ritual as we begin are this: calling in the light. Today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a more conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities that we possess as complete expressions of the divine. I'm going to repeat that and invite you to hear it anew. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities that we possess, that we already have within us as complete expressions of the divine. The affirmation that I have for us this morning is one that we used last week, but I'd like to continue it as it went one slide too many. Let me go back and get that. I'm working on a new computer today, and so it's moving faster than I'm used to. Here we go. And so as it shows up, this Buddhist prayer for peace, I'm going to remind us all that as we use the words may all, in our teaching we say, I affirm. In fact, I'm going to read it that way. Today I affirm all beings everywhere plagued with sufferings of body and mind quickly be freed from their illnesses. Today I affirm those frightened cease to be afraid, and those that are bound may be free. Today I affirm the powerless find power, and people think of befriending one another. Today I affirm those who find themselves in trackless, fearful wilderness. the children, the aged, the unprotected, be blessed, guarded by beneficial celestials, and may they swiftly attain Buddhahood. Looking at the visuals on the screen, let's let it be a guide for each of us today to affirm and know this for all beings. Buddhahood in this sense means experiencing spiritual awakenings, building upon spiritual awakenings, building upon spiritual awakenings. Amy's going to come on the screen now and take us through a chant to affirm and reaffirm this as our reality. Please feel free to sing along.
I am holy light. I am holy light. I am holy light. I am one with God. Join me singing, I am holy light. I am holy light. I am holy light. I am holy light. I am one with God. I am one with God. Let's do it one more time. I am holy light. I am a holy light. I am a holy light. I am a holy light. I am one with God. 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 One last time. I am one with God.
That chant is so grounding. Amy, you there? I think we lost her for a second. Are you there, Amy?
Yes, I'm
I
here.
said that chant is so grounding.
I'm just trying to figure out this new camera thing because you're over
I
there, but you're
know.
over there, but you're.
I know. For everyone joining us online, Amy's got a new setup in her studio for cameras and audio, and I've got one of my computers is new today. So we've got some technological stuff that we're playing with. We've worked hard to get it all worked out beforehand, so I trust it's all working just fine. So it's just great. But anyway, going back to that chant, it's so grounding because not only do the words have meaning, but the melody is beautiful. But I am holy light, right? It's such a spiritual truth to affirm that and to feel it. And, my acronym for light is living in God's healing truth. And when we play with knowing that we are that holy expression, that being, then as we radiate life, no matter what's going on in our life, we can remember that there is the light from within that is shining through us, as us, and lighting the way.
That's so good. Living in God's holy truth.
Yes. So living in God's healing truth,
Oh, healing truth.
right? And healing, remember, as
Healing and
Ernest
holy.
tells us, is the revealing of
Right.
wholeness. So, yeah. So, what song do you have for us now, Mademoiselle Reverend
Well, I
Amy?
just have this vision, especially because of what you're going to share with us after is that I just kind of want us all singing today,
Good.
like I just want us all, together, singing together. So I wanted to do Love Sweet Love
Oh,
which is just
good.
another one of my chants. And I just thought we could all sing together. And of course, stay muted because if not, it will sound terrible. All of us singing over each other. But this is
It's a collective share, although a non-audible one.
exactly. I think
Good.
soon enough, it'll be like right at the same time and we'll be able to sing together. But for now, this is called Love, Sweet Love. It's another simple chant of mine. I just like it. And it's love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love comes through. I don't know if I've done this one here before, but it's just sweet. And I want to, perpetuate that feeling of love. So I hope you'll join me once you catch it. We'll do it a few times. Love, sweet love goes like this. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love comes through. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love is the only truth. Love is the only truth. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love comes through. Love, sweet love comes through. Surrounds me. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love is the only truth. Love is the only truth. Love is the only truth. One more time. Love is the only truth. Love, sweet love surrounds me. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Comes through. Love, sweet love comes through. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love is the only truth. 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 Maybe we'll do it one last time, sort of really gently as a prayer. And if you don't want to sing this time, I just want you to think about all the things you love, all the people you love, just the energy of love. Let it fill you. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love, sweet love comes through. Love, sweet love surrounds me now. Love is the only truth. 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 One last time. Love is the only truth.
I love that, pun intended. So wonderful. And, listening to that, being surrounded and immersed in human love, right? Just the energy of love itself, which I know at your house is quite evident from the art behind you. Your house is infused with love. My house is infused with love. I came across this painting that one of our congregants did of my prior soulmate,
So
Sadie.
cute.
Isn't she adorable? And I put it up and like I can feel her presence looking over me. But what it reminds me of is love as a human entity is ever present for us, even though we may not feel it at times. And that love, as defined by Ernest Holmes, the self-givingness of spirit, whose desire is to create more of itself out of itself. It does that through you and through me and through Sadie and whoever else, right? Is always present. And then as Dr. David Hawkins tells us that love, we're confused as humans to think that love is an emotion. Love is an attitude. He says love is an attitude, meaning that we have the ability to choose it. We have the ability to choose it and engage in it. And as we engage in it, then it must respond in like kind. That's the nature of the universe. So thank you. I love that you set us up for what's to come with that, Amy.
And the way that song came through me is kind of a beautiful story too. Just briefly, I can tell you that
Yeah.
my father had passed suddenly, and I was experiencing grief that I had never experienced before. And I was sitting outside, just sort of talking to the universe, talking to love itself, God, love itself, the agape love, I guess, and asking about my dad and where he is, and this chant literally just came through me. And so it was spirit, you know, great spirit of all, of the allness, sort of speaking to me, reminding me that all there is love and that my father's always with me. And it was just really a very powerful experience. So,
Well, it's
yeah,
so
I just
interesting
want
that
to
you
share that.
speak of that because, so often in even in our teaching, which I find it surprising, that where we teach, and I say our teaching, meaning that in connection and in conjunction with all other New Thought teachings, right? We speak of all there is life, and all there is energy, and all there is one, right? And it's never, it may change physical forms, but it itself never changes, right? And then all of a sudden we draw inward when we go to talk about someone who's passed or the other side, like, oh, it may be too freaky to talk about, they're still here. I can't tell you how many times I've watched people be interviewed that have been with those that pass on, and they talk about how the veil is so very thin, right? We operate under this illusion that when someone leaves their body, that all of a sudden they get on like this, this jet energy and disappear way out into the ethers. I'm not saying they don't go to the ethers at some point, but it makes sense that even though they're not bound by time or space, the energy still exists, right? Because that's foundational to what we teach. Foundational. So at some point, maybe we'll do a service. You and I can do a service about talking to the other side and messages from the other side, and we
I
can talk
love
about
that. I
both our
love that.
fathers. Because I have a conversation, experience of my father's passing that's wild.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
have another one too. So let's do that next
we'll
time
do it at some
because I
point.
have
Yeah.
another one too to share that you will love. And actually one is connected to camp one year,
Well,
which is
my
crazy.
whole
So,
father was camp. It was the first teen camp I ever ran. Anyway,
okay, we'll talk
so we're
talk
going to come
about
back to that. Amy and I have no challenge in staying communicative with each other. So today, what I want to, well, not what I want, what I'm doing for us today is I am going to have Travis play a video in just a moment that I want us to share, to see. And it's a video that many of us, I'm sure some of you have seen it already on Facebook this week, but it's a video that I believe is so incredibly profound for each of us today. And certainly so profound for each of us today as we continue to find strength and empowerment on the journey of our life, while also understanding that we're subject to what's going on out in the world. It's a video that is featuring Marianne Williamson, and Marianne Williamson put her aside her political, just her politics for a moment. And I'm not sharing that today because of her politics. I'm sharing this video because I believe she's a cornerstone and one of the foremost teachers of A Course in Miracles, a metaphysical teaching that's very akin to what we teach in the science of mind. But more importantly, I think she's a brilliant light, and she taps into a way of seeing things that's different than somebody else. And I believe her voice is critical in today's world. And so Travis is going to bring it up. He's going to share it. It's just under 10 minutes. I invite you to listen to what she's saying. Try not to judge it. Take notes. As if there's anything you'd like Amy and I to discuss later, or any other questions you would like to have addressed from what she's talking about. Jot them down and ask them later. So Travis is going to come on and um, he's going to bring the video up.
Hey everybody, I just want to speak to the moment that we're living in. It's such a mean-spirited time, and so much falsity and so much toxicity and so much despair in the air. I know that a lot of people are experiencing this in our personal lives, kind of like we're holograms, iterations of what's going on, microcosm and macrocosm and all of that. But I think that there are some principles that apply, whether we're talking about our individual despair or collective breakdown. It's that it's a tough time and we need to accept that. You know, St. John of the Cross in his work on the dark night of the soul said that when it comes to the dark night of the soul, it's really not about if, but when. And our society has been very loath to accept that tough times are possible. That's part of a generational thing. You know, if you look at like my parents' generation, they went through World War II. There are generations which experience really tough times and they push through them. If we don't have, on a certain level, tough times in our lives, we don't develop the emotional, psychological, and intellectual musculature to be able to handle those times. And one of the principles is accept that it's here. You know, Thomas Paine wrote, these are times that try men's souls. These are times that try our souls. It's like there's nowhere to look, whether it has to do with politics, whether it has to do with government, whether it has to do with business, whether it has to do with personal communities and relationships, whether it has to do with any institution or entity that we're used to thinking, well, if things get too bad, I can lean on that person, or I can lean on that group, or I can lean on that institution to embody the values that I most care about. It's difficult right now to look around the landscape and say that's it, because this kind of corruption of our times has infected everything. So, number one, let's just accept that this is the time we're living in. We don't have to throw a yellow smiley face on it or do whatever we do to just nullify it, push it down, pretend it's not happening, alter ourselves. There is something about allowing it to be. I wrote a book where I opened it with this quote from Rilke, "Let me not squander the hour of my pain." When we're in this space, we see things and come to understand things. Not that those things are comfortable. We learn things about ourselves. We learn things about the world we're living in. We learn things about the country. And that's when the real work begins. It's an internal work of forgiveness and mercy. You know, when you see deeply enough and you accept enough, then you don't spiral down. It's almost like there's a floor in an elevator. It might fall, but there's a floor. You're not going to fall any further. And sometimes we're so afraid of the fall. But as long as the fall is filled with love and at least an effort at compassion, an effort at atonement, you know, taking responsibility for our own mistakes. You know, I see that with the country. There are people who just won't look at the terrible things that this country has done or that this country might be doing. They just want to say all rosy and pretend it's not happening. But then there are other people who only want to talk about what we've done wrong or what we're doing wrong and won't give any credence to what's right. The truth of the matter is, it's all complicated. And I don't care what your issue, whether it's a personal issue or a political issue or social issue, it's not black and white. Life is multidimensional. That's why don't let anyone tell you to stay in your lane. There are no lanes in human experience. We're multidimensional people. There's what's going on the outside and there's what's going on the inside. And both have to be addressed. You have to address the level of cause for any fundamental change, but you also have to address the level of the symptom because the symptoms are critical. So if you're like in complete despair because we have a political conversation where they're talking more about whether or not the mics are going to be muted than what's happening with climate change, or what's really happening that might change things with Israel and Palestine, or what's really happening in so many people's lives who are suffering in ways that aren't, you can feel they're not deeply being addressed in terms of the systemic changes that need to happen, know that you're not alone. But I also see so much anger and meanness, and we have to remember Martin Luther King's words that in order for the world to change, we need external changes in our circumstances and internal shifts in our souls. So cultivate whatever your quiet space is, whether it's secular or religious or spiritual, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's prayer, whether it's spiritual practice, or whether it's just reflective quiet time. Nobody has any impulse control anymore. Everything's just so frantic. Human beings weren't weren't made for a 24-hour news cycle. They weren't made, our nervous systems weren't made to handle this constant assault of social media, particularly given how mean it is in so many places. So I know in my own study of these things, there's so much emphasis in all spiritual practices on time spent in the morning. Whatever your inspirational reading is, whatever time, Blaise Pascal, centuries ago, the French mathematician and philosopher, said, every problem stems from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. So take that quiet time. Just like you take a shower, brush your teeth to wipe off yesterday's dirt from your body, we have to wipe off yesterday's stress, not just our own, but the stress of people living all over the world, whether it's people in Gaza, people in Afghanistan. It's like very difficult to really hold on to your inner peace these days without working it. And very easy to fall into this pit. And especially politically, like where is fundamental change going to come from? Because, it's going to come from the ethers of seeds planted. When a woman gets pregnant, it's happening inside. Ideas begin. New ideas are conceived in the imagination. Seeds are planted in the ground. It starts in some darkened place, but it's going to make it to the light. And that's faith. Faith isn't blind. Faith is visionary. We are going, as a country, to move through this. I can't tell you how. I tried to describe a plan, but it's all right. There are many people downloading solutions. The problem is, as I said so much in my campaign, there are people who have solutions all over this world. The problem isn't that there aren't people with solutions and best practices and new sustainable ways of being on every area where we have a problem. The problem is that those who have the solutions don't have the power. And those who have the power have very little listening for those with real solutions. We've got to bring it all together, and we will. But we have to be the people that we need to be in order to do what we need to do. And that has to be the prayer in our hearts. The world's not going to change unless and until we change. So I think my final message to you today is, yes, it's happening. You're not alone while it's happening. Do the inner work. It impacts the ethers whether anybody even knows about it. Owning our own mistakes, forgiving other people for theirs, and it's a process, not easy always. Being a little kinder, being a little more forgiving, being a little more astute, reading good books, staying away from all the junk thoughts, the junk literature. It's not even literature, the junk, there's just so much junk. Cultivate the healthy, cultivate the strong in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. That's what so many of us are trying to do that. Let's just remember we're not alone. And these seeds are planted of a new way of being and a new world. In a moment like this, let's hold on. Just think of all if you think about it, think how many millions of people right now are having the same conversation I'm having with you. In a different way, different language, different context. But all of us are yearning. There's an inchoate sense that something else is possible. I know it is. And the Course in Miracles says an idea grows stronger when it's shared. So I wanted to share that with you today. Maybe you'll share it with someone else. Have a beautiful day, despite it all. Decide. Have a beautiful day.
Almost nothing needs to be said after that, right? She speaks using the same language that we do. There's just so much depth and connection there. And the reminder for each of us to remember that there are principles at play at all times, the principles of creation, the principle of attraction, the principle of, and there's a whole declaration of principles that we went over last week in our philosophy, faith, and way of life. And as I invited each of us last week, and I hope and intend for all of us to at least pick one and worked on that this week, but to remember that whatever we're going through as an individual or as a collective or as a society, that it's not permanent, because that which is perceived to be permanent is that which is changeless. And so our role is to keep waking up and using our mind. She talked about the multidimensionality of life itself. And within that, there's times that are tough. This week, I'm part of a minister's blog, and one of the ministers like to throw questions out at each other and try to prompt some conversation, and oftentimes that's so that they can reinforce their belief system. And the question was, is suffering necessary? And it was so fascinating to watch all these old school, and I say old school, ministers that are chronologically older, but also even ones that are new ministers in our teaching, come back and just spout out Ernest Holmesisms, right? Of like, well, suffering is optional and suffering is a choice. And I went in and responded and said, I have both practiced and understand and believe the 20th century modality of our teaching that yes, suffering is optional, but it's not that black and white. It's not that simplistic. It's all situational. It's all circumstantial. It's all based on the evolution of the individual. It's about where and how we use our minds, and where and how we know the power of our minds, and where and how we're at the circumstances that's caused the suffering and the circumstance in which we're suffering, and where we're at should we feel empowered enough to stand up and use that which we know to be true, and attract to into our world those that are in like thinking to that, and to make sure there's no judgment going on by ourselves or others. So I love the statement that she made. Amy, I'm welcoming you to come on at any point and share anything you'd like to share here. The statement of, I probably need to I think I had turned your camera off. Are you having a challenge with that? Let me see. Can you turn your video on now? I love the fact that she said basically we're holograms moving through here. And it brings up such a visual. Imagine if we were all navigating life and being seen and seeing others as holograms, not as whole, as tangible, physical, but as that which we can see through, for the purpose of letting it remind us that we're all interconnected. I mean, I didn't know which one of yours to ask you to turn on.
Yeah.
So, do you want to now?
We got it.
All right, so I'm going to do this then. What did you think of that video, Amy Steinberg?
Oh my gosh. I have just really, I mean, I've loved her for so long. She might have been the first person that I listened to along the lines of these teachings, before, for years and years ago. And I've so enjoyed watching her like put her hat in the political ring, and then also to remain in this spiritual space. And I just completely agree with her. I loved when she's talked about we're not made for a 24-hour news cycle, and this idea that if you do watch something like the news, it's repetitive. It's like the same thing over and over again, right? Do I have you there? Are you
Yeah, I'm
still with
here.
me? Okay. And so as I was listening to her, I was just thinking like, what's the nutshell to make a little chant? So I wrote a little chant. Do you wanna hear it?
Sure,
I'm
go for
literally
it.
just making it up right now. So
Okay.
find the quiet, slow down, place your heart on sacred ground, spend some time finding peace. Change begins with you and me. So find the quiet, slow down, and place your heart on sacred ground. Spend some time now finding peace. Change begins with you and me. So find the quiet, slow down, place your heart on sacred ground. Ooh, spend some time finding peace, yeah. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. I like it.
I like it
Think.
too. Change begins with me. I watched that video a couple of times prior to just when we just watched it together, and what came to me, having talked a moment ago about the veil being so thin, is um, she is the modern day person that is espousing or declaring for us politically that there's a different way to do things. And she reminds me of the great Barbara Marx Hubbard, who followed other people, and they followed other people. And Barbara Marx Hubbard was she was the great voice of conscious evolution, of using quantum physics as an example for what's possible in using our mind. And she was the first person that had ran for political office prior to Geraldine Ferraro. Actually, she didn't get any public play in it, in that role. But her goal was that if we're going to have a war room in Washington, we need a peace room. And I just love that desire, right? Because we know that prior to anything becoming form, it must be held an idea first. Mary Ann just spoke of that, right? That a change begins with our own mind, that we must be willing to use the creative power of life in our own life individually, but to make a change so that that change can be on a broader scale. I think often of Barbara Marx Hubbard telling us to be a conscious, and I'm paraphrasing here, to be a conscious evolutionist. In other words, someone who both holds the idea that we can take a quantum leap in consciousness, one, to think that a radical shift is possible, and that we no longer want to live life the way we did before. Not judging it, just making that intention and decision. That one must be willing to be guided and lived from the essence of the divine, not from the ego of our mind. So in other words, it's letting spirit guide us and not let our ego guide us, right? Now, to build upon that with something I walked away with from Marianne Williams' video that was so ground was she said that faith is visionary, right? Having faith is leading with a vision of what's possible, not hanging on to wanting to repeat what was. In other words, we must have the courage to be willing to see something anew. We must be willing to have the courage to live anew. We must be willing to have the courage to live through the obstacles and the darkness and to know they shall pass. Our New Thought text for the day was from the book The Power of Vow by Dr. Tom Sanner, a buddy of mine. And this was the quote: I vow courage. Courage is the vow to proceed despite seeming obstacles. Courage means to overcome fear and act with confidence and moral strength. Courage involves the persistence to turn obstacles into opportunities. I know for each of us today that somewhere in our life, there's an obstacle that we want to overlook or pretend as if it doesn't exist. When in reality, it's what we're called upon is to face it head on and to then approach it with faith.
I just want to chime in and just say that the past 2 weeks I've been developing something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy to hear this. I vow courage.
Uh-huh.
And of course, it makes me think of what I've heard from you, and I've heard from many other teachers that, the root of the word courage is core, right? Which is heart.
Mm-hmm.
So leading from the heart, leading from the spirit, not from the ego, like you're saying, and and still moving forward with something that is scary. I mean, that you in order to, right, in order to have courage, you kind of gotta, like, courage is fear with legs, like with faith, right?
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to chime in and say, like, thank you for that reading. That was really good.
You're very
Yeah.
welcome. Um, Wendy has posted in the chat, I'm an anti-Zionist. My dear neighbor Samuel is Israeli and lived there for the first 25 years of his life. He's Zionist. We've tussled over this a few times until I finally decided to not discuss the war with him. We are still friends. How should I deal with this? Well, my answer to that is to not discuss the war with him, but to be open to discussing how fabulous it is that you can hold different opinions and still know that you're connected somewhere that's transcendent of your opinions, right? To have the courage to tell him you honor his decisions and to invite him to honor yours and to be open to things being different. Just be open to things being different. Have the courage to not focus on the obstacle, but focus on the possibility. Um, I'm going to read a quote to you that I pulled up for today that was posted by a buddy of mine who's a traditional minister in the world. When I say traditional, I mean Christian. And it's a Deepak Chopra quote. And I think it's so appropriate for us right now, given what Marianne just told us, to be open to the change, to be open to whatever darkness comes through in our life, while also being willing to have the courage to vow to engage in our obstacles, but not know where to go. So I love this quote. I can't wait to share it with you. It's from Deepak Chopra. If you obsess over whether you are making the right decision, you're basically assuming that the universe will reward you for one thing or punish you for another. The universe has no fixed agenda. Once you make any decision, it works around that decision. There's no right or wrong, only a series of possibilities that shift with each thought, feeling, and action that you experience. I'm going to read that second part again for us. Once you make any decision, it works or responds around that decision. There's no right or wrong. Here's the key. Only a series of possibilities that shift with each thought, feeling, and action that you experience. Why is that true? That's because we live in a world of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. And we live in a universe where the energy of mind itself responds to us by corresponding to our state of mind. So once we open to possibilities, and once we let go of any attachment of an old paradigm that the universe or God is based in judgment, then we shift our being, we shift our energy field, we shift our vibrational frequency of consciousness, and it responds to that which is new. So it appears as if it's downloading and creating that which is new. It's not, it's just responding to a different vibration, to a different perspective. So then what are we called to do? We're called to create a new perception, a new perspective. Holmes tells us the one that's always the best one to choose. He's not saying it's right or wrong. He's just saying which one is the best one to choose is the perception of wholeness or oneness. Why? Because that then taps into the consciousness of healing. Healing is the act of revealing that wholeness. Marianne talked about it in a different way when she said, let me not squander my pain. In other words, let me not deny it. Let me confront it, right? You know, in our modern, and I say modern meaning latter part of the 20th century world, and certainly the 21st century world of metaphysics, we all want to live in this not we all, meaning you and all, but we're taught to live in this mamsy-pamsy, idealistic world that nothing's ever wrong, right? When we speak of something being wrong, we're not speaking of it being wrong at the level of God. We're speaking at it being wrong at the level of our human experience and expression of it. You know, in the mid to the latter part of 20th century, metaphysics was about denial. There was a sixth step in 7 parts of treatment. The sixth part of the treatment was denial. It was a calling out that which is causing us pain or suffering and calling it out, denying it, confronting it, and then re-engaging in the healing aspect of oneness. Today, you and I have the opportunity to do that both in spiritual practice of treatment, but also in our everyday life. Holmes says in a prayer, I know there's a power for good which is responding to me and bringing into my experience everything that is necessary to my unfoldment. He's not saying just the things that make me feel good. He says everything that is necessary to my unfoldment, to my happiness, to my peace, to my health, and to my success. I know there is a power for good that enables me to help others and bless the whole world. So I say, and another word that keeps coming up today, quietly to myself, there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. It's flowing through me, circulating in me. I know I am one with its rhythm. My heart beats with the pulsation of the universe, in serenity, in peace, and in joy. My whole being is animated by the divine spirit. And if there's anything in it that does not belong, it's cast out because there's one perfect life in me now.
Of course, doesn't that bring to mind, there's only one life, that life is God's life,
Yeah.
that life is perfect, that life is my life now. Do you remember that?
Not only do I remember it, the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking of Etika and Lisa. So yes.
Yeah, only one
Once
life.
again, what keeps coming up for me today that I feel like I need to share for all of us is no matter what we're going through in life, we're not alone. We have each other. Marianne talked about all the people that are having the same conversation, albeit in different languages. And we're not alone because even those that have moved on to the other side, they're there. They're there for us to buoy us, lift us up, and carry us through whatever's going on in life. That's the one life. Can you chant it again, Amy? There is one life.
There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's the most amazing video of that from Asilomar on YouTube. Maybe you can post the link.
Sure, we'll be happy to do that.
It's amazing.
So I'm going to leave it there, everyone. I feel like that's the perfect way to close today. Amy's taken us out with this song. I'm going to invite you to sit silently for a while after we disconnect from being together and absorb what we've shared today and invite Spirit in to guide each of us as to what's next for us, to open up and know that we're on a journey. And this journey is one that has pain, it has suffering, it has darkness, it has light, it has success, and it has failure. That the tough times aren't here to cause us pain, but to provide for us an opportunity to remember who we are and to make a commitment to turn off the noise and to sit in the silence. Our theme for this upcoming month is an expectancy of good. Not good as in good or bad, but good as a synonym for God. Let's all make a commitment for this upcoming month to expect there to be more God in our life, whatever that means to you. I want to ask you to say thank you to Travis, to Amy, to Robert. Thank you to each one of you. Go to our website, csl-la.org, and find out what's going on through our new thought text and our midweek morning meditation. I invite you to support our community financially. You can find out how to do that through our website and through our app in the App Store. Next Sunday, we're back in person in the building. Please come and bring a friend. We've got great music with Jason Goldstein and Arne Batson. And to know that right where you are today is the perfect space for you to express there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is your life. And it's perfect. And it's now. Have a blessed Sunday. If you're on Zoom, we can hang out and say hello for just a moment and know that you're loved. Peace and blessings and happy Sunday.